I bought that beach house to find some peace. After 43 years of marriage, after burying my Loretta, I deserved that much. A place where the ocean could wash away the silence she left behind. But the day I moved in, my phone started ringing. My son Kenneth, calling like I owed him something, like that house wasn't mine. It was his vacation spot, his escape, his convenience. And when I told him no, when I said I needed time alone, he showed up anyway, with his whole family and his in-laws, 7 people ready to treat my sanctuary like a hotel, with me as the help. Before we continue, please tell us where you're watching from so we know how far our stories reach, and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. Let me take you back 6 months. That's when everything started. Loretta died on a Tuesday. Pancreatic cancer took her in 3 months flat. One day she was laughing at my terrible jokes in our kitchen in Detroit. The next, she couldn't get out of bed. Kenneth came to the funeral, stayed for 2 hours, left before we even served the food at the repast, said he had to get back to Atlanta for a work thing, didn't call for 3 weeks after that. I spent those weeks in our house on Woodward Avenue, walking past her garden that was starting to die, sitting in her chair because mine felt too empty. Our neighbors brought casseroles I couldn't eat. My sister Pauline called every day, but I let it go to voicemail. The silence in that house was so loud it hurt. That's when I made the decision. I'd been saving for years. Loretta and I always talked about getting a place down south, somewhere warm, somewhere by the water. We never did it because Kenneth needed help with college. Then he needed help with his wedding. Then his business. Always something. But Loretta was gone now, and I was done waiting. I found the house online. Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. Small, 2 bedrooms, but it sat right on the beach. The pictures showed sunrise over the ocean. A wooden deck where I could drink my coffee. Peace. Finally, I called Kenneth to tell him. Thought maybe he'd be happy for his old man. "You're buying a what?" His voice came through sharp, annoyed. "A beach house, son, down in Hilton Head. I'm retiring for real this time. Gonna sell the Detroit house and move down there." Silence. Then, "How much?" "That's not really—" "How much, Dad?" $350,000. He laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "You're spending $350,000 on a house at your age?" My grip tightened on the phone. "I'm 67, Kenneth, not dead. I'm just saying that's a lot of money. Money that could be used for, family things, college funds for the kids, investments." "Your kids have college funds. I started them myself, remember?" Another pause. "Look, if you're going to buy some expensive beach property, maybe we should talk about making it a family investment. I could help you manage it, rent it out when you're not using it. We could all benefit." There it was, the real reason for his interest. "It's not an investment property, Kenneth. It's my home." "Whatever, Dad, do what you want. You always do." He hung up. I should have seen it then. The warning signs, but I was too focused on my own grief. My own need to escape. I bought the house in April, moved in May. The first morning I woke up there, I sat on that deck with my coffee and watched the sun come up over the Atlantic. Pelicans dove for fish. The waves rolled in steady and calm. For the first time since Loretta died, I felt like I could breathe. That peace lasted exactly 4 days. Kenneth called on a Friday evening. I was grilling on the deck, just a simple burger, enjoying the salt air. "Hey, Dad, how's the beach house?" His voice was different, friendly, too friendly. "It's good, son. Real peaceful." "That's great. That's really great. Listen, I was talking to Renee and we were thinking about coming down to visit. Bring the kids. Let them see their grandpa's new place." My heart lifted a little. Maybe this was an olive branch. "Sure. When were you thinking?" "Well, that's the thing. Renee's parents are coming to visit us next month from Ohio, and I was thinking, wouldn't it be great if we all went down to Hilton Head together? Make it a family vacation. The kids would love the beach." The burger suddenly tasted like ash in my mouth. "All of you? For how long?" "Just a month. July. Peak summer, perfect beach weather." "A month? Kenneth, come on, Dad. You have that whole house just sitting there. 2 bedrooms, right? We could make it work. The kids can share the pull-out couch. It'll be fun. Family bonding." "Son, I just moved here. I'm still settling in. And I'm not really set up for hosting it's a beach house. How much setup do you need? We'll bring our own groceries. You won't even know we're there." That was a lie, and we both knew it. Kenneth, I need to think about this. Think about what? It's your family, your grandkids. When's the last time you saw Aaliyah and Cameron? The guilt hit like a fist. He was right about that part. I hadn't seen them since the funeral. Before that, maybe Christmas 2 years ago. That's not fair, I said quietly. What's not fair is you buying this expensive house and then not wanting to share it with your own family. But whatever, I'll tell the kids Grandpa doesn't want to see them. Now hold on. Gotta go, Dad. Talk later. He hung up. Again. I stood there on my deck, burger going cold on the plate, and felt the peace draining out of that place like water through a sieve. But that wasn't even the worst part. 2 days later, Kenneth called back. This time his voice was cold, businesslike. So I already told everyone we're coming. July 15th through August 15th. Renee's parents are excited. The kids are counting down the days. Kenneth, I didn't agree to... I'm texting you the flight information. We land at Savannah Airport at 2 p.m. It's about 45 minutes from you, right? You can pick us up. Son, listen to me. I'm not comfortable with what? Your family visiting? You know what, Dad? Ever since Mom died, you've been different. Selfish. She wouldn't want this. That word. Selfish. From the son who left his mother's funeral early, who called once a month if I was lucky, who only reached out when he needed something. Something in me cracked. Don't you talk to me about your mother. Don't you dare use her to manipulate me into, I'm not manipulating anyone. I'm trying to have a relationship with my father. But clearly, that house is more important to you than your family. Message received. The line went dead. I sat down heavy in my chair. My hands were shaking. From anger, from guilt, from something I couldn't quite name. He'd already told everyone they were coming. Already made it so that if I said no, I'd be the villain. The grandfather who rejected his grandchildren. The father who chose a house over family. I looked out at the ocean. The water that was supposed to heal me. And I felt trapped. The calls kept coming over the next 2 weeks. Not from Kenneth, from Renee. Curtis, the kids are so excited. Aaliyah wants to know if there are dolphins. Can you believe she's never seen a dolphin? From the kids themselves. Cameron's voice, young and hopeful. Grandpa, Dad says you have a beach right outside your house. Can you teach me to swim in the ocean? From Gloria, Renee's mother, who I'd met exactly twice. Curtis, Raymond, and I are so looking forward to finally spending real time with you. Kenneth speaks so highly of you. Each call was a nail in the coffin of my resistance. By the end of June, I'd stopped fighting it. They were coming. 7 people descending on my small 2-bedroom house for a month. And there wasn't a damn thing I could do about it without becoming the family monster, or so I thought. The idea came to me on July 10th, 5 days before they were supposed to arrive. I was at the hardware store buying new towels. 7 people meant I'd need more towels, more sheets, more everything. I was in the checkout line, looking at my cart full of things I didn't want to buy for people I hadn't invited, when I heard 2 women talking behind me. Girl, I just locked up my beach house for the month, heading back to Charleston. These summer rental people don't know how to treat property. Smart. I always clear out when I rent mine. Last thing I need is to be around when they're tracking sand through my clean floors. Lock up the house. The thought bloomed in my mind like a dark flower. I could do that. I could agree to their visit, let Kenneth think he'd won, and then lock up every entrance and leave. Just disappear for the month. Let them show up to a locked house with no way in, no me to guilt, no me to play servant. It was petty, maybe even cruel. But the more I thought about it, the more it felt like the only way to take back my power, my peace, my house. I paid for the towels I'd never need, drove home, and started planning. I called my sister Pauline that night. You still got that spare room in your place? I asked. Curtis? Of course I do. Why? You coming back to Detroit? Just for a month, maybe less. I need a favor, Pauline, and I need you not to ask too many questions. There was a pause. Then she laughed. What did Kenneth do now? How'd you know it was about Kenneth? Baby brother, I know you, and I know that boy. What's the plan? I told her everything. The uninvited visit, the manipulation, the month-long invasion, and my solution. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, Curtis, that's cold. I know. I love it. When you coming? We finalized the details. I'd leave on July 14th, the day before they arrived. I'd lock every door, every window, take the spare keys, and disappear. The next few days passed in a blur. I didn't tell Kenneth anything. Let him send his excited texts about the flight details, about what they were packing, about how the kids couldn't sleep, they were so excited. Each text made my resolve stronger. July 14th came. Morning sun, calm ocean. I took one last walk on my beach, the one I bought with my own money to heal my own grief. Then I locked every door, every window, even the small bathroom window that barely opened. I took both sets of keys, left nothing behind but furniture and my anger. I drove to the airport and caught a flight to Detroit. Pauline picked me up, didn't say a word about it in the car, just took me home to her place in Southfield and showed me to the guest room. "How long do you think before he calls?" she asked. I checked my watch. "They land at 2, drive to Hilton Head by 3, start trying keys by 3:30. "And when he calls?" I don't answer. She nodded. "This is going to be ugly, Curtis." "I know." "Good," she said. "Sometimes ugly is what's needed." I went to bed that night in Detroit, in Pauline's guest room with the traffic sounds outside and the city smell in the air, everything opposite of the beach house I'd left locked and empty. My phone was on silent, but I saw the notifications piling up. First text came at 3:47 p.m. "Dad, we're here. Come let us in." Second at 3:52 p.m. "Dad, where are you? The door's locked." Third at 4:01 p.m. "This isn't funny. Open the door." Fourth at 4:15 p.m. "Are you serious right now?" Then the calls started. I watched them come in. Kenneth, Renee, Kenneth again, over and over. I let them all go to voicemail. Finally, at 6:23 p.m., I listened to one. Kenneth's voice was shaking with rage. "I don't know what kind of game you're playing, old man, but you've got 7 people stranded outside your house right now. 2 of them are children, your grandchildren. What kind of grandfather does this? Call me back, now." I deleted the message, turned off my phone. Pauline brought me dinner on a tray. Looked at my face. "You okay?" she asked. I thought about it. Really thought about it. "Yeah," I said. "Yeah, I think I am." But I had no idea what was coming. No idea that my simple act of defiance was about to spiral into something much worse, something that would bring my granddaughter on a journey of hundreds of miles alone, something that would force a reckoning I wasn't prepared for. All I knew that night was that my house was locked, and for the first time in months, I was the one who held the keys. My phone stayed off for 3 days. 3 days of peace in Pauline's guest room while chaos erupted 700 miles south. I didn't know what was happening in Hilton Head, didn't want to know. I figured Kenneth would eventually give up, take his family to a hotel, go home, learn his lesson about respecting boundaries. I was wrong about all of it. When I finally turned my phone back on, I had 83 missed calls, 47 text messages, and 12 voicemails that got progressively more unhinged. But none of that prepared me for what actually happened outside my locked beach house. None of it prepared me for what my son did to his own children. Let me tell you what I didn't see, what I only learned about later when the pieces fell into place and I understood the true cost of my decision. Kenneth stood outside my house at 3:45 that first day, his hand on the doorknob, his face going from confused to angry in the span of seconds. Behind him, Renee was wrangling suitcases from their rental van. Gloria and Raymond were stretching their legs after the drive. Aaliyah and Cameron were already running toward the beach, excited and oblivious. "It's locked," Kenneth said. Renee looked up. "What?" "The door. It's locked. Dad's not here. Maybe he's at the store or something. Call him." Kenneth called. It went straight to voicemail. He tried the back door, locked. The side door, locked. Every window, all locked. By 4:15, the reality was sinking in. I wasn't coming. This wasn't a mistake. "He did this on purpose," Kenneth said. His voice was flat, cold. "He locked us out on purpose." Raymond frowned. "Now, why would Curtis do that? There must be some explanation. The explanation is my father is a selfish old man who cares more about his precious solitude than his own family." Gloria put her hand on Kenneth's arm. "Honey, let's not jump to conclusions. Maybe there's an emergency. Maybe there's no emergency." Kenneth's voice cracked loud enough that the kids stopped playing in the sand and looked over. He knew we were coming. He planned this. He locked us out like we're strangers. Renee was on her phone, scrolling through hotel options. Her face went pale. Kenneth, everything's booked. It's peak season. I'm not finding anything under $400 a night. $400? Raymond's voice pitched up. For a month, that's $12,000, Kenneth finished. $12,000 because my father wants to play games. The afternoon turned to evening. They sat in the rental van, air conditioning running to fight the July heat, making calls. Hotel after hotel, all booked, all expensive. The closest availability was 40 minutes inland. A budget motel, 2 rooms, $1,000 a week. Kenneth's hands were shaking as he hung up the phone. Not from fear, from rage. Dad? Cameron appeared at the van window. When can we go to the beach? Kenneth looked at his son, 11 years old, excited about a vacation that was falling apart before it started. And something in Kenneth's face changed, hardened. We're not staying, Cameron. What? But you said, Grandpa's not here. He had to leave. Emergency. We can't stay at the house. It was the first lie. But it wasn't the last. Aaliyah climbed into the van, sand on her feet, disappointment in her eyes. No beach vacation? Kenneth looked at his daughter, 9 years old, already crying, and instead of telling her the truth, that her grandfather had locked them out, that adult conflicts were complicated, he made a choice. Grandpa didn't want us here, Kenneth said. He told me he bought this house for himself, not for family. He doesn't want to see you guys. The words hung in the air like poison. Renee's head snapped toward her husband. Kenneth, that's not... It's true, Kenneth cut her off. He made it very clear. This is his house, his peace. We're not welcome. But that wasn't even the worst part. Aaliyah's face crumpled. Grandpa doesn't want to see us? I'm sorry, baby, but that's the truth. He's changed since Grandma died. He's not the same person anymore. Cameron looked confused. But he's our grandpa. Grandpas are supposed to love their grandkids. I thought so too, son. I thought so too. Gloria opened her mouth to say something, but Raymond grabbed her hand, shook his head slightly. They'd only met me twice. Who were they to contradict Kenneth about his own father? They drove to the budget motel that night. 2 rooms, thin walls, the smell of mildew and disappointment. Gloria and Raymond in one room, Kenneth, Renee, and the kids in the other. Aaliyah didn't speak the whole drive, didn't eat dinner, just sat on the motel bed staring at the wall. Kenneth kept calling me, kept texting, but the messages had changed. Now they were filled with accusations, threats, curses I'd never heard my son use before. You've destroyed this family. The kids are crying because of you. I'll never forgive you for this. You're a bitter old man, and I hope you die alone. That last one, that's the one that stayed with him. The one he'd regret later. The week dragged on. They tried to make the best of it, went to the beach during the day, came back to the motel at night, but the vacation was poisoned. Every moment was tinged with resentment and confusion. Kenneth drove past my house twice a day, once in the morning, once at night, looking for signs of life, looking for my car, seeing nothing but the locked doors and drawn curtains of a house that was supposed to be theirs. His anger festered, grew, became something ugly. Gloria watched her son-in-law spiral and started to worry. She'd seen angry men before, known what they could do when rage went unchecked, but this wasn't her family, wasn't her place to intervene, except for what she heard on the 8th night. The walls were thin in that motel. She heard Kenneth in the next room, talking to Renee after the kids were asleep. He's always been selfish, always. When I needed help with the business, he gave me a lecture instead of money. When Mom was sick, he acted like I wasn't grieving enough. And now this, locking us out like we're nothing. Maybe we should just go home, Renee said quietly. This isn't healthy, Kenneth. You're obsessing. I'm not obsessing, I'm angry. There's a difference. The kids are suffering. Did you see Aaliyah today? She barely said 10 words. That's on him, not me. I'm not the one who rejected my grandchildren. Gloria lay in bed next to Raymond and felt something nagging at her, something off about the whole story. She'd known Curtis for 7 years, since Kenneth and Renee got married. He'd always been kind, generous, quiet but warm, the kind of man who remembered birthdays and asked real questions about your life. This didn't match. The Curtis she knew wouldn't lock out his grandchildren without reason, but she kept quiet, stayed out of it, until she couldn't anymore. On the 10th night, Aaliyah came to Gloria's room, knocked softly, tears running down her face. "Grandma Gloria, can I talk to you?" Gloria opened the door, let the child in, sat her down on the bed. "What's wrong, baby? Why doesn't Grandpa Curtis love us anymore?" The question hit Gloria in the chest. "What makes you think he doesn't love you?" "Dad said so. Said Grandpa bought that house just for himself, that he doesn't want family there, that he changed after Grandma Loretta died, and he doesn't care about us anymore." Gloria's jaw tightened. "Is that exactly what your dad said?" Aaliyah nodded, started crying harder. "Did we do something wrong? Is Grandpa mad at us?" Gloria pulled the child close, let her cry, and felt anger rising in her own chest, not at Curtis, at Kenneth. She'd been watching her son-in-law for 10 days now, watched him drive past that locked house like a man possessed, watched him poison his children against their grandfather, watched him twist the situation to make himself the victim, and she'd had enough. The next morning, Gloria cornered Kenneth in the motel parking lot. Renee had taken the kids to breakfast. It was just the two of them. "Why did you tell Aaliyah that Curtis doesn't love her?" Kenneth's face went defensive. "I told her the truth. He locked us out." "You told her he doesn't want family, that he's changed, that he doesn't care. Those are your interpretations, Kenneth, not facts. Are you taking his side? The man who left us stranded?" "I'm not taking sides. I'm watching you hurt your children to justify your anger. There's a difference." Kenneth's hands clenched. "You don't know what you're talking about. I know what I heard through those motel walls. I know what Aaliyah asked me last night, crying her heart out. I know you're using those kids as weapons in whatever battle you're fighting with your father. Get out of my business, Gloria. It became my business when you dragged my family into it, when you made my husband and me complicit in this mess." Kenneth turned away, walked toward the van. Gloria called after him. "Whatever happened between you and Curtis, it's not your children's fault. Don't make them pay for it." He didn't respond, just got in the van and drove off. That night, Aaliyah made a decision. She'd been thinking about it for days, listening to her father's anger, feeling the weight of being unwanted, trying to understand why her grandpa had changed, and she decided she needed to know the truth, needed to hear it from Grandpa Curtis himself. She waited until everyone was asleep, packed her little backpack with clothes and her favorite stuffed dolphin, took $43 from her mom's purse, money she'd seen Renee leave on the nightstand. She slipped out of the motel room at 2 a.m. A 9-year-old girl in the South Carolina darkness walked to the gas station 3 blocks away, the one she'd seen when they drove past, asked the night clerk how to get to Detroit. The clerk, a young woman named Tasha, looked down at this small black child with a backpack, and alarm bells went off. "Baby, where's your parents?" "I need to find my grandpa. He's in Detroit. Can you tell me how to get there?" Tasha came around the counter, knelt down. "Honey, that's like 700 miles away. You can't just, please, I have money. I need to see him." Something in the child's voice, the desperation, the determination. It made Tasha pause. "What's your name?" "Aaliyah." "And your grandpa's name?" "Curtis Williams." Tasha made a decision she'd questioned for weeks after. She didn't call the police, didn't call child services. She saw a child trying to reach family and she helped. "There's a Greyhound station in Savannah, about 40 minutes from here. Early morning bus goes to Atlanta, then you can transfer to Detroit. But baby, you really should. Can you take me? Please? I'll give you all my money." Tasha looked at this child, saw something of herself at that age, desperate to escape, to find safety, to be wanted. "Keep your money," she said. "My shift ends at 6. I'll drive you to the station." 4 hours later, as the sun was rising over South Carolina, Aaliyah Williams boarded a Greyhound bus heading north, a 9-year-old child with $43 and a stuffed dolphin, traveling 700 miles to find her grandfather. She had his address, had heard Kenneth mention the Detroit house on Woodward Avenue enough times, had written it down in her little notebook. The bus pulled away from the station, and back at the motel, Renee woke up to find her daughter's bed empty. Her scream woke up the entire floor. Renee's scream cut through the motel like a siren. Kenneth bolted upright, saw the empty bed, the note scrawled in Aaliyah's wobbly handwriting on the pillow. Gone to find Grandpa. Love you. No. Kenneth grabbed his phone, started dialing. Police. My number. Anyone who could help find his missing 9-year-old daughter. I was sitting in Pauline's kitchen when my phone rang. I'd turned it back on that morning, finally ready to face whatever damage I'd caused, but I wasn't ready for this. Your granddaughter is missing. Kenneth's voice was raw, terrified. Aaliyah, she ran away last night. She left a note saying she's coming to find you. The coffee mug slipped from my hand, shattered on the floor. What? She's gone, Dad. 9 years old and she's gone. Because of you. Because you locked us out and I had to explain to her why her grandfather didn't want to see her. My chest went tight. You told her what? I told her the truth, that you chose that house over us, and now she's out there somewhere trying to get to Detroit to ask you why you don't love her anymore. The room spun. I sat down hard. I'm calling the police, Kenneth said. I'm calling everyone. But if something happens to her, if my daughter gets hurt because of your petty revenge, I will never forgive you. Do you hear me? Never. He hung up. Pauline was already on her feet picking up the broken mug. What happened? I told her, my voice shaking. My hands shaking. Everything shaking. Oh, Curtis, she whispered. Oh, baby brother, what did you do? What had I done? I'd wanted to teach Kenneth a lesson about respect, about boundaries, about not treating me like a convenience. But Aaliyah? She was innocent. She didn't deserve to be caught in the middle of adult wars. The next 6 hours were agony. Kenneth called every 30 minutes with updates. Police were searching, Amber Alert issued, gas stations checking cameras, bus stations notified. I paced Pauline's living room like a caged animal, praying, begging God not to let my stubbornness cost that child her life. Then, at 3 p.m., the call came. We found her. Kenneth's voice cracked. She's okay. She's in Columbus, Ohio, on a Greyhound bus. They're holding her at the station. I collapsed into the chair. Thank God. Thank God! A driver recognized her from the alert. She'd made it from Savannah to Atlanta to Columbus. Was supposed to transfer to Detroit tonight. She had your address written down. Dad, your address. That's how badly she wanted to see you. The guilt hit like a physical blow. Kenneth, Save it. We're flying to Columbus to get her. But this conversation isn't over. Not by a long shot. He hung up again. But that wasn't even the worst part. Gloria was the one who called me 2 hours later. Her voice was calm, measured, but underneath I heard steel. Curtis, it's Gloria, Kenneth's mother-in-law. I know who you are. Good, then you'll understand when I tell you that I'm driving to Detroit, tomorrow, to talk to you face to face. Gloria, I'm not asking permission. I've watched this situation unfold for 2 weeks. I've heard Kenneth's version. I've seen what it's done to those children. Now I want to hear yours, because something doesn't add up, Curtis, and I'm going to find out what. She hung up before I could respond. Pauline looked at me. She's coming here? Apparently. That woman doesn't sound like she's coming for a friendly chat. No, I agreed. She doesn't. Gloria arrived the next afternoon. Raymond wasn't with her. She'd driven alone, 7 hours from Hilton Head to Detroit, fueled by determination and questions. Pauline let her in, offered coffee. Gloria declined. I'll stand, thank you. This won't take long. She turned to me, her eyes sharp, assessing. Tell me why you locked them out. So I did. All of it. The phone calls, the manipulation, the guilt trips. The way Kenneth had steamrolled over my grief and my boundaries to claim my house as his vacation spot. The way he'd invited himself and 6 other people for a month without truly asking, without caring that I'd just buried my wife and bought that house to heal. Gloria listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Did you tell Kenneth any of this before you locked the door? I tried. He wouldn't hear it. Did you tell him you needed time alone, that you weren't ready to host? Yes, multiple times. And he came anyway. He told everyone they were coming before I ever agreed, put me in a position where saying no would make me the villain. Gloria nodded slowly. So you made yourself the villain anyway, just on your own terms. I suppose I did, and told no one. Left Kenneth to explain to his children why their grandfather's house was locked, why they couldn't have their vacation. The guilt twisted deeper. I didn't think he'd lie to them, tell them you didn't want to see them, poison them against you. Gloria's voice hardened. No, you didn't think at all, did you, Curtis? You just acted, just like Kenneth did when he invited himself to your house. She had me there. We'd both acted selfishly, both prioritized our own needs over communication, over honesty. But here's the difference, Gloria continued. You had a right to your boundaries. Kenneth didn't have a right to violate them. You bought that house with your own money. Your grief was still fresh. Kenneth should have respected that. I looked up, surprised. I'm not excusing what you did, she said quickly. Locking them out was cruel. Leaving a 9-year-old confused about why her grandfather rejected her was worse. But Kenneth's behavior? That was entitled, manipulative, wrong. She sat down then, finally accepted the coffee Pauline offered. I've been watching my son-in-law for 2 weeks, watching him spiral, and I've seen something that worries me more than this locked house situation. What's that? Kenneth doesn't know how to hear no, doesn't know how to accept that people have needs beyond his own. And that's a problem that started long before this beach house. She looked at me directly. When's the last time you told Kenneth no about something and he accepted it gracefully? I thought back. The college money, the business loan, the wedding costs. Every time I'd hesitated, he'd pushed. Every time I'd expressed concern, he'd guilted. Every time I'd tried to set a boundary, he'd found a way around it. Never, I said quietly. Exactly. So this beach house thing? It's not the disease. It's just the symptom. Pauline was nodding. I've been saying this for years. That boy doesn't respect Curtis, never has. Gloria sipped her coffee. So here's what's going to happen. Kenneth and Renee picked up Aaliyah yesterday. They're back at that motel in Hilton Head, trying to figure out what to do with the rest of their ruined vacation. Kenneth is still furious at you, still telling anyone who'll listen that you're a terrible father and grandfather. I know. But I'm going to tell him something different. I'm going to tell him that I drove to Detroit, that I heard your side, and that while I don't approve of how you handled it, I understand why you did it. Gloria, you don't have to. Yes, I do, because someone needs to hold Kenneth accountable, and it clearly won't be you. You're too weighed down by guilt and grief to stand up to him properly. She wasn't wrong. I'm going to tell Kenneth that he needs to apologize to you, that he needs to respect your boundaries, that he can't treat his father like a resource to be exploited. He won't listen. Maybe not. But I'll say it anyway. And when Aaliyah asks me, because she will ask me, I'll tell her the truth, that Grandpa Curtis loves her, that he was hurting and made a mistake, but also that her father should have asked permission instead of demanding access. I felt something loosen in my chest. Not absolution, but understanding. Someone who saw the full picture instead of just Kenneth's version. Why are you doing this? I asked. You barely know me, Gloria smiled sadly. Because I know Kenneth. I've known him for 7 years, and I love my daughter, but she married a man who thinks the world owes him something. I've watched him take advantage of Renee's parents, take advantage of friends, and now take advantage of you. She stood up, set down her coffee cup. Someone has to break the pattern, Curtis. Might as well be me. She drove back to Hilton Head that night, called me when she arrived. I talked to Kenneth, told him everything we discussed. And? He called me a traitor, said I was choosing you over my own family. Renee's upset with me too. I'm sorry. Don't be. I said what needed saying. Whether he hears it or not is up to him. But Kenneth did hear it, not right away, not gracefully, but slowly over the next week. Gloria's words started to crack through his anger, especially after Aaliyah asked him directly, Dad, did Grandpa really say he didn't want to see us? Or did you say that because you were mad? Kenneth couldn't lie to her face, not after she'd run away, not after she'd risked everything to find the truth. I was angry, baby. I said things I shouldn't have. So Grandpa does love us? Kenneth's face twisted. I don't know anymore. But I did know. I'd known the whole time. I called Kenneth 3 days after Gloria's visit. He answered on the 5th ring. What do you want? I want to apologize. To you and to those kids. What I did was wrong, Kenneth. I should have talked to you. Should have been clear about my boundaries instead of locking you out. Silence on the other end. But I also want you to understand something, I continued. I'm not a hotel. I'm not a resource you can access whenever it's convenient. I'm your father. I just lost your mother. And I bought that house to heal. You didn't ask if I was ready for visitors. You told me they were coming. That's not okay. More silence. Then, you could have just said no. I tried. You didn't listen. I would have listened eventually. Would you? Because Gloria seems to think you don't know how to hear no, and looking back at our history, Kenneth, I think she's right. I heard him breathing on the other end, angry breathing, but thinking breathing too. I don't know how to fix this, he said finally. Neither do I, but maybe we start with honesty. You stop treating me like an ATM in a vacation rental. I stop running away instead of standing my ground. We both try to remember that we're family, even when we hurt each other. The kids still ask about you, especially Aaliyah. My heart clenched. I'd like to see them. When you're ready. Not at the beach house. Somewhere neutral, just for a day. Kenneth was quiet for a long time. Maybe, after we get home, after things settle. That's fair. Dad? Yeah? I'm sorry too. About treating your house like it was mine, about not asking properly, about a lot of things. It wasn't everything. It wasn't a full reckoning. But it was something. We hung up. Pauline looked at me from the kitchen doorway. How do you feel? Tired, I admitted, and still guilty about Aaliyah, but maybe a little hopeful too. You going back to the beach house? Eventually. But not yet. I think I'll stay here a while longer. Make sure things are truly settled before I go back. She nodded. Probably wise. I stayed in Detroit for 3 more weeks, talked to Kenneth twice more. Short conversations. Awkward, but honest in a way we hadn't been in years. Gloria called me too, told me that Kenneth was seeing a therapist, working through some things about entitlement and boundaries. She didn't say it was because of our situation, but I suspected it was part of it. When I finally flew back to Hilton Head, it was mid-August. The summer crowds were thinning. The beach was quieter. I unlocked my house, the house that had caused so much pain, and walked through the empty rooms. It felt different now, not like a sanctuary, not like a battlefield, just like a house. I sat on the deck with my coffee, watching the sunrise like I'd done that first morning. But this time, the peace felt fragile, hard-won, complicated. My phone buzzed. A text from Kenneth. Aaliyah wants to video call you tonight, 7 p.m. That okay? I smiled, typed back, I'll be here. And I was. At 7 p.m. exactly, my granddaughter's face filled the screen, smiling, holding her stuffed dolphin. Hi, Grandpa. Hi, baby girl. I'm sorry I ran away. Mom and Dad were really scared. I know. I'm sorry, too. Sorry I made you think I didn't want to see you. Dad explained. He said you were sad about Grandma and needed space, and he didn't respect that. I looked at the screen in surprise. Kenneth had actually told her the truth. That's right, but I should have handled it better. Can I come visit? Not for a whole month, just maybe a weekend? I felt my throat tighten. I'd love that. We can look for dolphins. I'll teach you to swim in the ocean if your parents say okay. Really? Really, she beamed. Cameron popped his head into the frame. Me too? You too, buddy. Kenneth appeared behind them, gave me a small nod. Not quite a smile, but acknowledgement. We talked for 20 minutes, about school, about their trip back home, about normal things. When we hung up, I sat on my deck and let the tears come. Not tears of grief like before, tears of something more complicated, relief mixed with regret, hope mixed with loss. I'd won my battle for boundaries, taught Kenneth a lesson he desperately needed to learn, but the cost had been high. Aaliyah's terror, the family fracture, the trust that would take years to rebuild. Gloria had been right. Kenneth and I were both selfish in our own ways, both unwilling to communicate until crisis forced us to. The difference now was that we knew it, and knowing was the first step toward change. But here's the thing. Nobody tells you about standing up for yourself after a lifetime of giving in. You don't get to control what breaks when you finally push back. You don't get to choose who gets hurt in the crossfire, and you don't get a clean ending where everyone learns their lesson and goes home happy. Real life is messier than that. Kenneth and I talk now, more than we did before, but there's a distance that wasn't there when I was just saying yes to everything. A wariness. He's careful with his requests. I'm careful with my boundaries. We're both trying, but something fundamental shifted between us that can't be shifted back. The kids visit sometimes. Short trips, supervised by Renee. Kenneth comes too, but he stays at a hotel, says it's about giving me space, but we both know it's about trust. He doesn't trust that I won't lock him out again. I don't trust that he won't overstep if given the chance. Gloria calls me once a month. We've become unlikely friends. She tells me about Kenneth's therapy progress, about Renee's frustration with both of us, about the grandkids growing up too fast. You did the right thing, she told me last week, even if it didn't feel like it. Did I? Aaliyah could have been killed. But she wasn't, and Kenneth learned something he needed to learn, that other people's boundaries are real, that he can't manipulate his way into whatever he wants. At what cost, though? At the cost of your relationship being honest instead of resentful. That's not nothing, Curtis. Maybe she was right. Maybe I'd traded a comfortable lie for an uncomfortable truth. Kenneth used to call me every week when I just went along with everything. Now he calls every other week and actually asks how I'm doing. Actually listens to the answer. Is that better? I don't know, but it's real. I'm sitting on my deck right now, coffee in hand, sunrise over the ocean. A dolphin just breached about 50 yards out, and I grabbed my phone to text Aaliyah about it. This house is mine, my peace, my space. But it's lonely too. The price of boundaries is sometimes the price of connection. I don't regret buying it. I don't even regret locking that door. But I do regret the pain it caused, the terror, the broken trust that may never fully heal. Loretta used to say that family is complicated, that love and hurt live in the same house. I never understood what she meant until now. I bought this house to find peace. And I did find it. But not the kind I expected. Not the easy kind, the hard-won kind, the kind that comes after you've stood your ground and lost some things and gained others and learned to live with both. My phone buzzes. Kenneth, kids want to visit over Thanksgiving. Just 4 days. We'll get a hotel. That work for you? I smile. Type back, that works. But Kenneth, you can stay here, all of you, if you want. 3 dots appear, disappear, appear again. You sure? I'm sure. It's a big enough house, and it's time. Okay, thanks, Dad. You're welcome, son. I set down the phone, look out at the ocean, at my deck, my sanctuary, my complicated peace. And for the first time since Loretta died, I feel like maybe I'm exactly where I need to be. Not because everything's perfect, but because it's real. That's the truth they don't tell you about revenge, about standing up for yourself, about demanding respect from people who've taken you for granted. You might get what you wanted, but you'll lose something too, and you'll have to decide if the trade was worth it. For me, I'm still deciding. Ask me again in a year, after Thanksgiving, after we've tried to rebuild what we broke. But right now, in this moment, with the sun coming up and the dolphins playing and my coffee still warm, right now, I'm at peace. The messy, complicated, hard-earned kind. And maybe that's the best kind there is. Thanks for listening to this story. If it touched your heart, please leave a like and subscribe. Have you experienced something similar? Share your story in the comments below.